From the Aishin Broadcast Studio, it's AMN Drivetime, brought to you by Aishin.
AMN Drivetime is sponsored by Aishin, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit AishinAftermarket.com for more information.
Bro, good morning and welcome to AMN Drivetime, sponsored by our good friends at Aishin.
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it.
We're glad to have you. So, bro, just for our viewing audience, your name is, of course, Randy Breaux, but you go by Breaux, right?
Well, look, most of my friends all call me Bro, so if I stop you in mid-sentence and ask you to call me Randy, we probably got a problem there. But most of my friends all call me Bro. It started when I was a kid, and it's just kind of stuck all these years. I did have another company I worked for, and there were 3 Randys in the organization. So we all just went by last name, and it even stuck, even more at that point. But, it's my name. And if you call me Randy, I may or may not answer sometimes. So you're better off calling me Bro if you want to get a response.
Okay. So, bro, you have been with Genuine Parts for a long time, but you are newer to NAPA. You're a little under a year now, because I heard you speak at the Vision Conference, and I think you said you've been there a little under a year. And I thought it'd be helpful for our audience to have you just walk through your career, if you would.
Yeah, so look, I started early. It's you're right. I have been in the NAPA role for just under a year. We'll anniversary 1 year here in the next month. But I started working real early. I grew up in South Louisiana, working class family. Both my father and grandfather were machinists, so blue collar workers, and they ran their little business. But I wouldn't necessarily say I started my career when I was 9 years old, but that's when I really got my first job. And then I began working regularly after that. I received my first paycheck, though, when I was 15 years old. The day after I got my driver's license, I went to work. And I still have that. I found it when my mother passed away. She saved it. And I have that in my office, just as a reminder to me of who FICA is. But, I had my first paycheck back then at 15 years old, and I've been working ever since. So when I look back, I spent 26 years on the manufacturing side after I graduated from college, and 21 of those years was with Baldor Electric Company. Baldor Electric Company manufactures electric motors in North America. They were bought by ABB out of Europe in 2011, which was the same time I left to join the distribution side of the business. So I joined Motion. Motion was Baldor Electric Company's largest customer. And, I had a very good relationship with the executive management at Motion. And they had a couple of executives retiring and asked me if I would come over and take over those roles at Motion. So after some discussions over about 5 months, I agreed. And in May of 2011, I joined the Motion team, which of course is part of Genuine Parts Company. It was the industrial arm, if you will, of Genuine Parts Company at the time. So that is really my step into the distribution world back in 2011. If I take it from there forward, I started at Motion over the marketing, product management, and strategic planning for the business. And then in 2018, I stepped into the role of president of Motion. I ran Motion up until just this past April as president, and we named a new president there. But it was back in March of 2023 when the president and COO, Will Stingle of GPC, reached out to me and asked me if I would consider being the group president for GPC in North America, covering both the industrial and the automotive businesses. And during that time period, initially running both Motion and running NAPA. So I agreed to do that and really went on my listening tour for NAPA in June of 2023. So I'm coming up on a year here of actually being in the role as president of NAPA. So it's been a great career. You know, my time with GPC has been fantastic, over 13 years now, and I certainly look forward to finishing my career here.
Terrific summary, bro. Thank you. So, as it relates to the phrase "Breaux Knows," could you talk about your four tenets of vision, strategy, structure, culture, the dislikes for ABCs, and I'll let you talk about what the A, B, and C mean, the belief of relationships first and success follows, and anything else along the Breaux Knows, book that you think that you'd like to share?
Well, you know, over the years, I've been fortunate to have some really good mentors that have really given me my PhD in business, in life, in how to treat people and whatnot. So what I find myself doing a lot these days is sharing that with others, particularly our employees. You know, the Breaux Knows really comes from, a presentation I did where I thought, you know, what can I share with these people? And I tagged it Breaux Knows. And there were some little snippets out of there, and you just mentioned a few of them. One of the first things, you know, and I do pride myself on being more of a strategic thinker. One of my philosophies is that to run a successful business, you have to have a very clear vision first. That vision needs to be supported by a very sound strategy. And then you have a structure that can deliver the strategy. And then all of that has to be underpinned by a very good culture. So those are the four tenets that when I look at building the business, those are the four things that I focus on: vision, strategy, structure, and culture. And if I can get those things right, then I know that I've got a good chance at winning in the market.
Terrific.
Take it beyond that, you mentioned the ABCs. So the ABCs is something that a mentor taught me long ago, that for a successful business to operate, it has to be void of the ABCs. And the ABCs are simple. You can't have arrogance in the business. You can't have bureaucracy in the business. And you can't have complacency. So to run a successful business, from my standpoint, you have to eliminate those three ABCs as quickly and as efficiently as you possibly can to run a high-performing business. And that's what we focus on, and that ties right back to the culture that the business operates in. Hope that makes sense.
It does. So, bro, maybe just on the arrogance, the ABCs, right? The arrogance, the bureaucracy, the complacency. Is there anything in addition you want to mention about that on any one of those items?
Yeah, let me just hit on the complacency part. You know, one of the things that I pride myself on is building a high-performing team. And you can't build a high-performing team when you don't have all of the players on the team performing at a extremely high level. So when I talk about complacency, what I really talk about is I want players on the team that are giving 100% effort every day on the field. And what I find is that if you have A and B players, you can get the results you're looking for. You don't have to have A players every day. But if you've got A and B players, you can get the results you're looking for. If you have C players or D players on the team, you're better off just moving them off the team, because you're never going to be able to coach up a C or D player to become an A or B player, because they just don't have the right attitude, and they're just not going to give you 100% all the time. So that's a big thing for me. And I'll talk about that a lot in the organization, about the need to be better than average. And let's face it, C is average, right? So we need to get the average players off, and we need to get the high-performing players on the team. That's important things we focus on regularly. The other thing I would add is that I think that transparency is critical in leading an organization. You know, I had a mentor one time tell me when I was on the manufacturing side, he said, "Bro, just tell them the truth. They can handle the truth. What people can't handle is not knowing what the truth is." So what I try to do is be very transparent with the team and make sure that they understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And sometimes it's not comfortable. But if you tell them the truth, they'll figure out how to handle it. And that's the way I've always run the businesses that I've run. And that's the way I run my life. You will always find me to be very transparent and very open and direct. And I think that is the best way to build those relationships that we talked about with your people, with your customers, with your shareholders. You build those relationships based on transparency and trust.
And then I think the relationships first, success follows I think that's really maybe relevant in all businesses, but in my experience, my whole career in the aftermarket, relationships are a big deal.
They are, and for me, I was fortunate. The chairman and CEO of Baldor Electric Company allowed me to help him with writing a book that he wrote called Relationships First, Success Follows. And the bottom line is we are in a relationship business, and it's still a people-to-people business. So if you can develop sound, solid relationships built on honesty, trust, transparency, I do believe that success will follow shortly thereafter. And it's not only with your customers, it's with your employees and your shareholders as well.
I've heard you say, Breaux, that instead of watching the competition, you prefer to listen to customers. And I'd love for you to elaborate for our audience, if you would.
Well, look, I think time's better spent understanding what your customers want and need rather than trying to follow and monitor every step that your competitor's making. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your customers that make you successful. And, I don't want to ignore my competitors, but I would much rather spend my time and energy focusing on the customers and what we can do to be a better partner with our customers rather than spending all my time worrying about our competitors. And it's just that simple. And I've always managed the business that way. I've always managed myself that way. So I'm not saying it's not important to think about and watch your competitors, but it's more important, in my opinion, to follow your customers and make sure you're doing everything you need to do for them to create more value and to build that relationship with your customers first.
And so you mentioned you're coming up, measured, I guess, kind of in weeks now, of your 1-year anniversary at NAPA. And you indicated you've been on a listening tour. I'd be curious, a year in, impressions about the aftermarket.
Well, it's definitely a fragmented and a very large market. It's a bit different than the industrial market, particularly in the sense that when we sell products in the industrial market, we typically have means to create additional value with the products that we sell. It seems that in the industrial market, those opportunities and those customers are focused on different value criteria than in the automotive market to some degree. But the automotive market, I think, is also very ripe for those distributors that can come in and differentiate themselves on something other than price. So, when I look at the two markets, there are similarities, but there are large differences. NAPA has a reputation of being that know-how or that NAPA expertise. And for us, I think that is critical that we continue to figure out how to bring that expertise to the market. That to me is the main value driver that we're focused on in the NAPA business.
At the Vision Conference, Breaux, and I've been in the aftermarket my whole career, there's brands in the aftermarket that are kind of hardcore B2B, and there's brands in the aftermarket that are consumer as well, like someone like a Goodyear tire, right? That's a big aftermarket brand in the tire world, but it's also obviously a consumer brand. And NAPA, I think to a degree falls into that category as well, perhaps. I don't want to put words in your mouth. At the Vision Conference here, you did just a great presentation, but you talked about NAPA being a B2B business. Of course, there's B2C as well, but I'd love to hear your comments on kind of the B2B thing versus B2C for NAPA and how you're positioning yourself.
Yeah, what I mean by that is when you look at the customer base that we serve at NAPA, it's typically the professional repair or the fleets managers, the fleets. We do have a good retail DIY business, but at the end of the day, when you look at the NAPA business, it's that professional that we're serving. So, I think NAPA's got an iconic 100-year reputation of being that person that you go to if you're the professional to solve the problem, and that is really what I mean by that. The DIY business is certainly important to us, but that professional repair and the large fleet business and the business to business relationship is also critically important to us. So that's where we focus most of our time and energy. And that's really what I mean about B2B versus B2C.
Sure. It makes a lot of sense because the research we shows that when the consumer goes to get their car fixed, they rarely spec a brand. They just want it fixed well by 5 o'clock. And they count on the professional tech to put the right part on there at the right time, and et cetera.
100%. And when you look at vehicles today, they're becoming more and more technically difficult to work on if you're an individual. You may not have the tools and equipment. You may not even be able to access some of the parts on the vehicle. So the professional repair shop, is certainly, the customer that we focus on day in and day out.
So, bro, you mentioned at the beginning of your vision presentation about Breaux, and you had a story to share about Charles Barkley. You didn't share it at the time. You didn't circle back to it. I'm just curious if it's something you could share with the AMN audience.
Well, it was funny to me. It may not be funny to anybody else, but I'm happy to share it. So, Charles Barkley, played college ball at Auburn and grew up in the Birmingham, Alabama area where Motion Industries is headquartered. So there's a steakhouse there in town that he would frequent, and had a table reserved all the time. So we were eating there one day with a vendor, and as we were having our dinner, Charles Barkley walks in. He sits at his table, and when Charles comes in, you can't miss him, right? So he's holding court there at his table, and we wrap up dinner. And after dinner, I said to the supplier partner that I was with, I said, "Look, I'm going to pop in the restroom and before I leave." So he said, "Well, I'll go as well." So we go to the restroom, and as we're walking back out, it was easier to go through the area where Charles was standing by his table rather than go back through the dining room. So as we walk up, he has his back to us, and he's holding court, and he's gesturing with his hands. And I reach up and tap him on the shoulder, and I said, "Hey, Charles, you mind if we come by?" And he says, "No problem, bro. Come on through." So we walk on through the restaurant. We get outside, and the vendor turns to me and says, "Hey, why didn't you introduce me to Charles?" He said, "You guys are on a first name basis." And I said, "Now, come on. How many people do you really think Charles Barkley calls bro?" And we both laughed, and he said, I get you, and that was the end of that. Well, about a year later, I'm sitting in there, and I'm sitting next to the table that Charles was at, and Charles starts talking to me, and I tell him the story, and he puts his big old arm around me, grabs my neck, squeezes me, and he says, "Come on over here, bro. Let's get a picture." So, the story is I'm bro, and, a lot of people, Charles included, just call me bro. So that was the story. No big deal. It was comical at the time. But, again, how many people does Charles reach out and call bro? I'm sure there's quite a few of them. So
that's a great story. So we started our conversation about Randy or bro, and we ended with that. So it's kind of a nice wrap up. But before we let you go, bro, there's a tradition on the Drivetime interview we call the lightning round. And okay. I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to give me a quick answer.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Golf, tennis, fishing, shooting, hiking. What do you like?
Whoa. There's quite a few of them in there I like.
All right.
Fishing, I love, and it takes me back to my days with my grandfather and my father when they took me fishing as a young boy. Golf, I would like to get better at, but I don't have enough time to play it on a regular basis. And like many things, if you don't do it often, you just can't be proficient at it. Shooting or hunting, that takes me back to the time when my son was young, and we spent a lot of time in the woods together hunting. And I look forward to those days again in the future with my son and my grandchildren when the days come about. Hiking, swimming, anything like that, nah, that's for somebody else, not for me.
Bro doesn't know.
Bro doesn't know, and bro doesn't care about those.
Baseball, basketball, or football?
Baseball and basketball. I played both sports when I was younger. I was fairly good at both of those, but I played football one day. And I say that because the first day I went out for football as a freshman in high school, they put me on a blocking dummy, and this guy, about 240 pounds, hit me, and I was about 120 pounds, and I was about 12 feet in the air, got up, threw the blocking dummy down, and said, "I quit," and walked off the field.
Beach vacation or city vacation?
Probably a beach vacation. My wife and I just got back from the Turks and Caicos, and we had a great time laying on the beach and sitting around doing absolutely nothing for 2 days, just trying to put everything else aside. So, beach vacation.
Cake or ice cream?
Ooh, another tough one. I would have to say it just depends on what's available. I'll leave either one of them.
Read a book or watch a movie?
I would say watch a movie. My attention span is not extremely long, so to read a long novel is not something I do very often. I like to read short books, and I like to read various magazines and whatnot. But if I can watch a good movie, I would take the movie over a book or a magazine.
I think I'm going to know the answer to this one, but we'll see. Are you an email, a phone guy, or a text guy?
Man, I'll tell you what, my wife, she gives me a lot of grief over the amount of texting that I do. I'm a text guy. It's fast, it's quick. I get immediate, gratification, and so I would say text over email.
All right, last question. Is it about aptitude or is it about attitude?
I think it's always about attitude. I mean, look, for many years, people thought I was an engineer. I'm not an engineer, but I had the right attitude. Aptitude, you've got to have it, but there are skill sets that I can teach you that can supplement aptitude. But if you don't have the right attitude at the beginning, it's just not going to work for me. So it's always attitude over aptitude.
Bro, it's great to have you on AMN Drivetime, sponsored by our friends at Aishan.
Great to be here, and I hope we get together again soon.
AMN Drivetime is sponsored by Aishan, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit aishanaftermarket.com for more information.